So you just watched the eclipse, and if you're a painter like me, you're probably thinking, I want to paint that. Side note, my favorite thing to do when it's an eclipse is to just go for a walk and explore all the shadows. Even my hair got some of the little half moon shadows. The other reason I like to take a walk is that it gets so quiet and the birds. Just listen for a second. Alright, but back to painting. I've got 2 different paintings I did to show you a couple different techniques, and both of them started the same way. I found something round, and then I traced it very lightly. I also erased the tracing so I can just barely see it. Then for both of mine, I'm going to use masking fluid to actually mask off this area. For the first example of this, you don't need the masking fluid. You could just very carefully avoid the inner area. But the second one, it's pretty crucial to it. After you apply masking fluid, you do have to let it dry for about a day. Once it was dry, I came back and right away around the center of that circle, I put some yellow, washed my brush, and then I replaced it with kind of a dark black with a little brown undertone. And I kept moving in these circles outward, getting darker and darker the further I got outward. Once I did that, I came back to the center and dropped in some more bright colors. I could have kept it here, but I wanted to keep messing with it, so I wanted to add in some more darkness, and I also wanted to drop in some additional colors around the center. One of the keys to this, because I've messed with it so much, is I'm going to continue to work in these kind of circular strokes to kind of emulate the rings around the sun. Once I was finally able to pull myself away from messing with this, I did let this dry naturally. I don't like to dry on the masking fluid because it smells funny. Then it's time to remove this once everything is fully dry, and you want to move slowly and move carefully. Just kind of rub it in towards itself. The more impatient you get, the more likely you're going to rip your paper. If you're trying to paint the path of totality, you don't need to do this part, but I'm not quite in totality, so I am going to take that same circle and I'm going to place it slightly off center and then trace it again. Then I loaded up that circle with some bright yellows and oranges just for a little extra spice. Then I dried that completely, and then I brought in a really dark color in my brush and filled in the second circle that I traced. This is the hardest part of this entire painting, making a perfect circle. I recommend starting smaller so that you can kind of correct as you move outwards. The second one also started with the masking fluid, and it's a little more crucial here. You'll see in a minute. I started with a lighter kind of brownish black color in my brush around the center, and again, I worked my way outwards. And then I place a little extra dark colors towards the outside. This part can be pretty messy because we're going to be messing with this some more. Because what I want to do next is actually lift out some of those sun rays that go out from the sun. So I'm going to dry my brush off, and then I'm just going to drag it from the center. This is why that masking fluid is key here, because we can touch to the center without worrying about going into the center. In between these lifting strokes, I was just tapping my brush dry until I was happy with kind of the burst I got. Now, I have to say that I do wish that I had kept it here and made that layer darker initially, but I decided to do another layer of essentially the same thing to darken everything up, and every time we add in a dark layer, we run the risk of getting lots of brush strokes kind of embedded within this. Yeah, you'll see that because I do another layer in this one too, because I was trying to get extra fancy, and I should have just kept it at the first layer. I let that dry again, and I removed the masking fluid very carefully. And then I decided instead of just painting on the center part, I wanted to give a warm glow to the whole thing, so I put yellow over everything. Again, I'm going to see some streaking from this because I wasn't being super careful with my placement. And also, every single layer that we add on, we run the risk of doing this, so I probably should not have done that. I did drop some brighter colors along kind of that center area where the actual sun would be, let everything dry, and then again painted in that really dark circle. This one had so much potential if I had just stopped a couple steps before.